200K Select, he and Candy. And I've known Jim almost since I came into this business. And you're going to love this, Jim, because I'm going to share a little bit of what I found today when I was going through my files. And Jim and I are co-hosting this call. So, Jim, if you're there, if you'd like to go ahead and start off and say hello.
Well, I am here, and I thank you for the nice introduction. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to be associated with a company like XANGO, with the quality products and quality leadership and generous compensation plan that we have. It's been everything that I've ever thought network marketing should be, and this is not our first company. And I can tell you, not all companies are the same. XANGO is the gold standard in the industry, and it's been a thrill to be associated with it. So, and not only the company, but people like Carolyn and Naomi and all of our other associates that make us who we are. So thanks for joining us on the call tonight, and Carolyn, it's yours to run with.
Thank you. And Sandy, I'm sorry. I'm sure you started recording. I forgot to say that as I introduced Jim, so I apologize for that. But I have some fun things to share with you this evening after our keynote speaker, but I don't want to wait any longer. Dr. Templeman, are you there?
Yes, I am, Carolyn.
Well, I know that everybody on this call knows you. And if we have some guests on the call, which I'm hopeful for, the people that invited them will share who you are. But, you know, I met Dr. Templeman at the first 20K dinner I went to, I think my first year in May in Las Vegas. And when we used to have 20K dinners, do you remember that, Dr. Templeman? I do.
I do. I remember well.
You had your shocking white hair, your black shirt, your black slacks on, and I said, oh, my gosh, Kenny Rogers is in the room. And we've had a lot of fun times and traveled the world together, and we've got to hear some amazing things that you've learned when you've been out crawling through the jungles. And I don't know that there's anybody that has any more knowledge on the mangosteen fruit that you do. And I often marvel at other companies that have spokesmen. I always want to ask the doctors if they crawled through the jungles or climbed the mountains or sat with healers or Buddhists or monks to find out how they use the product like you have done with the mangosteen. I am so appreciative of all the things that you've done for us over the years and what you continue to do. And with that, Dr. Templeman is going to share with us tonight our amazing product, Ageless, and a new little twist to it. As I said in my little memo this morning, you know, you've talked, XANGO's listened, and there has been a great change to Ageless. It hasn't had any effect on the product. So, Dr. Templeman, please share some of your knowledge with us.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, Carolyn, it's important to be with a company that is dynamic enough to be able to respond to questions and challenges from the field. It's also important that the company be able to keep its finger on the pulse of what is changing in the science of nutrition, so that when we have changes in ingredients or when we have information that becomes available, then we're able to make the adjustments with the products that do make that difference. Now, I do want to reiterate again, and as a way of disclaimer, that I am not a XANGO employee, and unfortunately, I think through a bad choice, I've never been a distributor. So I act as a consultant to the company using my medical experience and the practical association that I've had with using alternative therapies, usually what I would call botanicals, as ways of achieving the same kinds of things that we get with medications very often, but without the dangers of drugs. And that's what led me to use alternatives in the first place, and it's the thing that keeps me feeling strongly that if we used more alternatives rather than simply jumping to the prescription pad, then primary medicine would probably be serving the people that come to see the practitioners a little bit more effectively than they currently do. Now, We're going to be talking this evening about a couple of products, but just one very briefly. The 365 vitamin mineral preparation that XALO put on the market several years ago is already in its third iteration, because as the information regarding vitamins and minerals and how to present them has changed, the company has made the changes that need to be made. Now, the current change, which does not involve ingredients in terms of altering the amount of ingredients or changing which ingredients there are, but there has been a change in the presentation. Previously, the products had what were compressed tablets in them, a couple of compressed tablets. The advantages of compressed tablets, of course, is that you can get more into a compressed tablet than you can into a powder which is inserted inside of a capsule. However, we discovered over time and with the experience, again, of a couple of years, that the ingredients were not being absorbed as effectively as they should be, because the tablet preparation was taking longer to dissolve in the stomach and become available than we had expected. This is particularly true of adults who are over the age of 60, because there is a net drop in the aging process, changes the pH of the stomach substantially, in that there is less acidity, and therefore it takes a little bit longer to dissolve certain substances, and in this case, the tablets. And so they have altered the preparation by putting the minerals, which were in the compressed tablets, into capsules. We have not yet heard that anyone is disturbed by this, because the minerals are the things that don't taste particularly well. And so a slow dissolution of the minerals was thought to be the best way to go, but experience proved that it was not. And so in order to make these minerals more available to the body at the same time that the vitamins are being released, the change has been made. And the company will continue to monitor to determine whether there is a necessary change. Now, Ageless, which is the XALO company's entry into the anti-aging sweepstakes, so to speak, because if you're a supplement company, it is pretty difficult to be in the market of anti-aging and not have a product which is going to be able to produce results. We've had it now for close to 3 years. And I'm going to refer to the slide which is up there that says aging, why and when. Well, the answer to the why is that living, particularly when we look at the theories of aging, we'll talk about that in just a moment, the exposures that the body has to toxins and the kind of work and wear and tear that goes on leads to a degeneration that starts a whole lot earlier than most of us are ready to believe. It's in the late 20s, in fact, that many of the peaks in our bone mass, for example, or in our ability to digest and extract the nutrients from food effectively, begin to decline. That's also when testosterone, for example, and estrogen and progesterone have reached their peak, and we begin to decline. It may be that nature looks at us a little bit like it looks at salmon, and as soon as we've been to the age where we can reproduce, then they're not terribly interested in the hosts anymore. And so the body degenerates, and we need to be aware of that degeneration. Can you hit the next slide? There are various theories. In fact, there are over 30 theories, biological theories of aging. And when I say theories, we know for a fact how rodents age. They age through the effect of the free radicals upon the tissues of their body. And we know that that applies to humans, but it doesn't apply as tightly as it does to rodents. And so everything else is theoretical. And there are a number of theories of aging, about what happens with the body. But the three major theories of aging, and the ones that Zango paid closest attention to, were the mitochondrial theory of aging, which has to do with cellular energy. The mitochondria are these little subcellular organelles that take food and transmit it into energy. And as the aging process goes on, this particular organelle becomes less effective. It is very, very susceptible to degradation by free radicals, and it also becomes less numerous, so that if you took a biopsy, for example, of the big muscle in my leg called globastus lateralis, and you compared it to one of my children who was 30 years younger, you would find that I have approximately half of the mitochondria per volume of muscle tissue as my children do. So that is one of the things that is really important, because we have to try and protect those mitochondria, and we also need to be able to give us the ingredients as far as supplements are concerned that are going to lead to mitochondrial proliferation and allow the maintenance of adequate amounts of mitochondria as long as possible. The telomere theory of aging is one that is still very highly subscribed to. A telomere is a bit like a shoelace in the sense that at the end of every one of the DNA strands that splits down the center every time a cell divides into two identical daughter cells, there's a little end of it, and that's called the telomere. And each time that the cell divides, there is a shortening of that segment of the DNA, the shortening of those telomeres. And it's believed by many scientists that this may be the primary means whereby cells age. And so there is the telomere theory of aging. The Zango company, looking at these three theories, included elements that were going to address all three of the problems that go on. So that with the telomeres, it's largely making certain that you have lots and lots of antioxidants present in an exogenous form. The body makes antioxidants, but whenever we oxidize the food that we're making into energy in the mitochondria, they produce what are called reactive oxygen species, or free radicals. And these free radicals are unbalanced atoms and molecules that are short in electron, and so they steal them from the healthy tissues that are around them. And therefore, looking at the telomere theory of aging and the free radical theory of aging, and to some degree the mitochondrial theory of aging, makes it imperative that any preparation you're going to put out there will have an adequate amount of protection against free radical damage. Could we have the next slide? When you look at the tissues of the body and you are aware of the kinds of things that happen with aging, we'll look first at this muscle cross-section from a 20-year-old. Now this is, it could be a leg, could be an arm, but what you see here that is very striking is that as we age, we lose lean body mass. Now, there are things that you can certainly do to stop that, and we'll be talking about some of the ingredients that have been included in this ageless product that address that loss of lean body mass. But you can see that there is a replacement so that you don't necessarily lose weight. You may, in fact, gain weight, but the lean body mass disappears and it is replaced by fat. Now, looking at normal bone on that right picture, you'll see that all bone is cancellous. In other words, it's not solid. And within it, there are many, many small areas that geometrically provide a great deal of strength. And as the bone is being stressed, and with the pressures and the different things that happen to bone and with the exercise, there is a process of bone resorption, or the taking away of bone, at the same time that bone is built up. So we have osteoblasts, which build up bone, and we have osteoclasts, which, under the influence largely of hormones, break down bone. And when the hormone imbalance becomes obvious as you move forward in life, then that kind of balanced equilibrium where you have as much bone made as you have bone resorbed becomes upset, and you have more resorption of bone than you have building up of bone, and so you end up with what is called osteoporosis. And you can see that the areas that are cancellous inside the bone with an older person's bone is much, much greater. Now, this happens to be a femur, the bone that is capable of being shattered in elderly women extremely easily once the estrogen effect, which is an osteoblastic effect, in other words, the building up of bone, once that is lost with menopause, then there is a very significant imbalance between the amount of bone that is built and the amount of bone that is resorbed, and you can end up with fractures. Skin is the other area where aging shows most clearly, because collagen, which is after water the most common element in the body, a protein, a structural protein, which if you look at it microscopically looks like a steel cable with made up of three strands, two strands which are identical and the third strand of protein or a polymer that wraps around the other two. And tensilely, when you compare it by size and strength to a steel cable, it's actually much stronger than steel. But it is subject to the kinds of degeneration from toxins and from radiation and from other factors, such as the fact that we may not have enough of what is necessary to replace collagen absorbed from our food the way we do in youth. Then we get the loss of the thickness of the skin. We get a thinning of it, and that's why if you look at the back of a hand of a child or a young person, you really can't see the vessels. But if you look at the back of a hand of a 60-year-old or a 70 or an 80-year-old, you'll see how thin that skin is, because you can just look right through and see every structure that is underneath. You can see the tendons sitting out there. There's been a loss of subcutaneous fat, and the thickness and the cushioning effect of the collagen has gone, the moisture and the tissue has declined, and really that's what's happening not only in the skin, but every place in the body where collagen is found. And so it becomes extremely important that we continue to supplement when we start to age, and that we do it in adequate amounts so that the diseases which are directly due to collagen degeneration, such as aneurysms in blood vessels or what is called diverticulosis in the bowel, where there are little outpouchings of the wall of the bowel after years and years of pressure from the inside, and a decline in the integrity of the walls of the intestine. That's the kind of thing that we're seeing that we would not be able to see, but which is happening, even though we may be able to see wrinkles developing and the other things that happen with collagen degeneration. Next slide, please. Now, the mitochondria degenerate. This is just a little configuration. You can see a damaged mitochondria. What actually happens is it becomes less and less efficient until finally it dissolves and is resorbed by the cell. So there just aren't that many, and they aren't as healthy, and they cannot produce the same amount of energy. And that is, to a great degree, the kind of lack of energy and vim and vigor that is experienced when you are elderly compared to when you're young. Sometimes when you're my age, you look around, see the young people running around doing everything they're doing, and you really begin to wonder, where do they get the energy to be able to do that? Well, it's normal for them, but for me, it's something that I need to be very aware of in order to supplement, to protect my mitochondria and to make the ones that are still there work more effectively. Next slide, please. Now, we haven't got time to go through in great detail all of the ingredients that are in there, but know that the mangosteen is the basic ingredient in this product, as it is in virtually every product that this company has put out. XALO is the mangosteen company. And interestingly, I was just reviewing, as I do every month or so, I was reviewing the articles from January and February. There weren't too many in January because the scientists don't work much in December either. But we had a tremendous number of papers come out in February, 15 papers that I'm reviewing and I'm going to be presenting in the meeting that we're going to have in Vancouver this weekend. But some very interesting discoveries about the continued importance of mangosteen and how completely across the whole spectrum of human health, the 5 major families of ingredients that are found in the mangosteen, and which make it unique because other supplements simply do not have that variety of useful things in it. The mangosteen is there as the basis for this, and there has been a randomized controlled trial, a couple of them in fact, with the mangosteen, some in China, one here in America, and the amounts of the mangosteen that were looked at in those trials is the amount that you will find in this product. You're not going to find just a whiff and a sniff. Next slide. Now, in every sports team, for example, you have your stars and you have your superstars, and then you have the other players who are probably never going to get into the record book, but who are extremely important to how well the team performs. And so we're going to be talking here about the superstars of the ingredients in the ageless. And the second one after the mangosteen is something which is called shilajit. Now, shilajit, which has been called Himalayan honey, it has many, many different names. What it is a composition of compressed organic material that has been in the mountains, in the Himalayas and the Urals. That's where we find it most. And its history goes back to Aristotle. He wrote about this. And certainly in the Ayurvedic tradition, it has been there for years and years. In fact, it's considered to be one of the basics of the Ayurvedic armamentarium. And here's a quote from the Karaka, which would be the Bible, so to speak, of the Ayurvedic culture. And it says, it enables the user to witness 100 summers of earth free from disease and decay. Well, it has a great deal of organic and mineral materials within it. Over 62 different minerals in what we would call minute amounts, so that they're called trace minerals. These are not the major minerals, the potassium, the calcium, the sodium, the chloride that we talk about as major things in the body, but we're talking about many, many, many trace minerals that are required to act primarily as facilitators of the metabolic processes. So they're not major constituents, but they work as catalysts. They speed up and make the reactions a little bit more efficient. And a lack of them can be felt generally in the fact that you're going to age more rapidly than you would without them. And secondly, even in youth, you're going to not have all of the strength and the protection against disease that your body is capable of providing, provided that you give it everything that it requires. So the shilajit is interesting in that every time they look at the history of the claims from history about what it will do, it has claims as an aphrodisiac. It has claims of being able to stimulate sexual activity, not only from the desire point, but also from the efficacy point. And every time that the modern scientists have tested these ancient hypotheses, the interesting thing is that just like the mangosteen, they always find what they are looking for. And that means that there's very vigorous research going on right now for shilajit, just as there is for the mangosteen, and that's why it's going to be a major player in modern supplementation to a much greater degree than it has up until now, but XALO used it early on, and I believe that many of the things which we see, such as the reduction, and this has been reported to me many times, again, not with the kind of strength of evidence that's going to allow us to be able to make a claim, but there is a condition called neuropathy where people actually have pain, usually in their hands and their feet, and it may come about for no reason that they're aware of, or it may be the result of diabetes, or it may be the result of chemotherapy. But this kind of difficulty is not anything that the medications today can do a whole lot for. But people who have used the Ageless for a considerable period of time have reported to me that they've had improvement in their neuropathic situation. I'm a diabetic of long standing, and I had neuropathy, but essentially my neuropathy is minimal at the present time. Was much worse in the past. Since I've been using the Ageless and a couple of the other newer products, I really have not had the same problem. So some interesting developments as far as that's concerned. Next slide, please. We're now going to talk about a Japanese product where the Japanese have actually done something to improve the bioavailability of something that people have recognized for millennia as having great importance, the lychee. And polyphenols are these substances present in most supplements which are nature-based that are used by the body, largely from pigments, but used by the body as the substrates to build up the immune system, to protect the body, and to be used in the energy metabolism cycle and also for structural repair. And the lychee polyphenols, unfortunately, when you just eat the lychee in its raw form, these are polymers, meaning chemical groups of proteins that are so long and complicated that the body really cannot break them down readily so that they are what is called bioavailable. Bioavailable means how much of an individual product that you take into your body is capable of getting out of the gut, because if you think about it, the gut really still is outside the body. So if you can't get something across the gut, even though you may have ingested it, then it is probably of marginal value to you as a nutrient. And so the Japanese, using a very natural process, were able to cleave these very long polymers into much shorter polymers and increase by about 400% the bioavailability of the polyphenols from lychee. Next slide. Now, many studies have been done on this particular product, and some of those studies were quite remarkable in the ability of the product now in its bioavailable form to stimulate the circulation of the body. And so here, if you look clockwise, you'll see up on the upper left, that's someone who's had it for only a short period of time, and at 15-minute intervals over an hour, they've got this thermogram, which measures the heat that the body is transmitting. Blue or yellow or green is cold, and the red, of course, is warmer. And you can see that there's a very striking vasodilatation effect of this, which has tremendous importance for athletes, for recovery time. And those are the kinds of studies that when you look into it, that's what you're going to see. Next slide is about the existence and the effect of what is called fat, visceral fat. Now, there are lots of kinds of fat, and the worst kind is a visceral fat, the one that packs your organs. We would never be able to do this study in the United States because there is a cost to doing repeat CAT scans. But in Japan, apparently they could get permission to do it, and they did. So this is an 8-week picture of the fat that existed. The red area is the cross-sectional view of the fat in the abdomen, and the only difference between the before and after was the fact that this particular single product, not in the Ageless, but in a single product, was taken, and there was a reduction of 15% in the volume of the visceral fat. And visceral fat is extremely dangerous because it is very pro-inflammatory and can be linked to diabetes, can be linked to arthritis, can be linked to virtually every chronic illness, including circulatory problems. So anything that you can get and take as a supplement that's going to make a difference in your visceral fat is going to be of benefit. Next slide. We then move on to something which is a protein, but it is not one of the structural proteins that we think about. It's called leucine. And leucine happens to be a precursor, if you will, of muscle, and so that it's therefore got a structure and a functional effect in that it is the rate-limiting factor on how rapidly protein is absorbed into the body from the gut and then rebuilt in its amino acid form, carried to where there is a need for the reconstruction, perhaps after exercise or during sleep. The lean body mass is maintained more effectively when you have adequate amounts of leucine. And because leucine, again, is one of those things that as we age, we don't absorb it as well. Therefore, it was decided that it would be one of the superstars in this particular product. And again, in the same doses that the studies showed that it had effect. Next slide, please. Now, here we're going to be talking about another protein, but this one is never involved in any kind of structural thing at all. It is used as almost like a hormone. It's called a neurotransmitter. And these are things that carry electricity from one cell to another in the body, and the body is largely electrical, and they're particularly important in the brain, and GABA happens to be an inhibitory neurotransmitter. In other words, it's one of the neurotransmitters that kind of calms things down. We have excitatory transmitters, and then we have transmitters that calm it down. But the reason that this one was included in the product is that it has a very direct effect on stimulating the production of growth hormone. Once again, an extremely important anabolic hormone that declines with age, and so therefore when you take the GABA in the evening before you go to sleep, which is when most people take this product, you're going to be giving a kick to the production of growth hormone, which happens at night when you're asleep, and that's also in the third phase of sleep, the deepest phase of sleep, when most of the protein repair goes on in the body. Next slide. Now we're down to things which are not unimportant, but they are considered to be the workaday, the kinds of guys who never get their names in the record books, but who are really important for a team to work extremely well. And Tribulus terrestris is something that bodybuilders and people who work in gyms have been using for years because it's what is called an adaptogenic herb, and its influence is on hormones. And so that adaptogenic means that when there is too much of one hormone, it tends to decrease the amount of that hormone which is produced. And it also means that when there is an inadequate amount of that hormone, that it stimulates the production of that hormone. And so its adaptogenic effects are extremely important in this product, but less so than the major things that we've been talking about. Next one. We're going to be looking at something which has specific importance for the circulatory system. We're going to be looking at the aloe vera is more important for the digestive system and for the skin. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time in it. Know that the aloe vera does not have a large number of the families of polyphenols, but it is the best source of what are called polysaccharides, which are sugar-based elements that the body requires for virtually all of the energy and metabolic processes that it goes through, as well as for the energetic aspect of life. So aloe vera is there. The next one I'm going to be looking at, next slide, is going to be primarily for the circulatory system, and this is grape skin and grape seed extracts. Now, these things have been found to have enormous value as antioxidants. You remember that I mentioned the antioxidant protective factor and how that's going to be able to help the collagen retain its integrity in the circulatory system, where it forms about 95% of all of the structures in the circulatory system, and also in the digestive system, where it is about upwards of 80%. So grape skin and grape seed extracts are extremely important. There are a number of different elements in them. I'm not going to go into them in great detail. For those of you who want to look up resveratrol, and you'll be able to see the importance and the amount that has been written about that, one of the major elements in here. And finally, I think we have one more. Would you like to throw that slide up? And that's the beetroot. And the beetroot is the major source within the vegetable kingdom of the elements that can be broken down to produce the best vasodilatory substance that the body is capable of producing, nitric oxide. And the beetroot is the source of most of that. It is broken down into the amino acids that are the direct precursors. In the product that we have, which is an amino acid boosting product called Ignite, we have both the beetroot in its raw form plus the amino acid precursors and the amino acids, which are the rate-limiting factors for the production of nitric oxide. But nitric oxide, if you want to go to the Nitric Oxide Society page, you'll see all of the places within the body where nitric oxide is the messenger molecule par excellence. So it really is important, and that's the product. Now, I've been able to watch people who have used this for 3 years the way that they are supposed to use it. There are a lot of anti-aging products out there, and really it isn't until the race is run that you get to see who are the leaders on this. Well, even though I can't publish the personal laboratory results of people who have been doing this and have seen a change, an actual rejuvenating change, if you wish, in looking at their lipid profiles, in looking at the C-reactive protein levels, the things that are indicative of the health of their circulatory system and of the health of their body in general. That's what you can actually see over time when you do follow the prescribed amount and frequency in using this particular product. Now, look at so many of the other anti-aging products that have been out there for as long as ours or for longer, and you simply cannot see those changes in the laboratory results. And so I will finish by saying, the proof in the horse race is when the winner crosses the wire, and I think that after 3 years of looking at this, we've got a winner.
Wow. I can, let me just see, I've got a couple questions here. There was so much great information, and one of the things I think that we tend to forget, Dr. Templeman, is, we've had the product out for 3 years, and so those of us that have been on the product for 3 years and have been able to tell the difference, we kind of tend to forget to talk about it. And I don't know,
yes.
I don't think we hit the new flavor.
Oh, we did not hit the new flavor. There actually was a taste barrier to this. Now, when you start putting mangosteen and a few of these like shilajit into products, you run up against a very, very serious problem, and that is, how do you make these things which just don't taste good in any way, how do you make them acceptable and palatable? And the first iteration was such that there were a number of people who did not use the product, not because they weren't convinced that it would be of an advantage to them, but because it simply didn't taste good. And so the scientists worked on being able to get it so that it tastes very different. I think it's a great improvement. It still is not something that I'm going to want to put into an ice cream flavor, but I think that we have made great steps in the right direction about making this much more palatable than it was before. In the past, I've always mixed it with other ingredients from the Pro line in order to attenuate the taste. Now I don't think that's going to be necessary for me anymore. But there are some people who've written to us and said, hey, we like the old bad taste. We got used to it.
Well, I think, I don't know, I think if a lot of people are like me, I just mixed it at night with my Ignite and my Reload, and I always thought that, personally, I've always felt that Ignite was very sweet anyway. So for me, it was a great combination. But the good news is now we should see a flurry of orders come in because, as we said, people have asked, Zango has listened, the change has come. So I'm very excited about that. I do have a couple questions before I let you go. I know that we're kind of running a little late, but wow, I wish we'd have had more time. Vivian asked the question, can we take Bone Health, XALO Ageless, Reload, and Marine Collagen all at once before bedtime? And is this the best way to take them? Yeah.
Well, you certainly can, because there are enough amino acids in the Ageless by itself and enough amino acids in the collagen, because virtually it's nothing but amino acids, that the body is so avid for protein, you don't need a meal going in with it to make sure that everything in the digestive tract is going to be perked up and prepared to absorb. You just have to have protein present. And so by mixing those together, you're going to have a double whammy with the protein from the Ageless and from the collagen, and I would think you would just maximize your absorption. There are some products, such as the juice itself, which needs to be taken with food, because some of the ingredients in there, in those 5 families, are not absorbable without the presence of fat in the gut, but these things all are.
Well, and Vivian, I would tell you that I also throw my Ignite in there. So, and I do take my collagen in the morning and at night separate. But yes, she does go one step farther and said that she's had a couple of people who, now I don't know if this is when they took a combination, Vivian, so I don't know if I'm asking the question right. She said she's had a couple of people who felt ill to their stomach when they took it. So when you say took it, I don't know if you're talking about all the products or one. And so they didn't want to continue it. Is it possibly detoxing them?
I think it's probably not detoxing them, but there are individual variations about how people react to things. And for example, when you give the 365, it's best taken with food, because it's not uncommon that if you put it in an empty stomach that you are going to get a little bit of dyspepsia or discomfort. And it will be something that it will be individual for that person. And if that's the case, then I'd say take it with a couple of spoonfuls of yogurt that is going to provide a basis for which the stomach is going to be more receptive if they're having some kind of dyspepsia.
Okay, she said it was the Ageless alone.
Yeah, then just take it with a little bit of yogurt or mix it with some of the other things such as the Proline elements that you may want at the same time.
Okay. My last question for the evening is from Carol, and it says, can you differentiate the new 365 capsules? In other words, she wants to know which ones are vitamins and minerals and which ones are for immune support.
Well, you're not, first of all, vitamins and minerals are both necessary for immune support. So you can't really separate those two things. Vitamins and minerals are principally the things which act as the facilitators of the metabolic processes for so many different things that go on in the body. They are the stuff that are not necessarily changed by the actual reaction, but they change the speed at which reactions take place. These are called catalysts and cofactors. So you can't really separate one out from the other and say minerals are used for this and vitamins are used for that. That's a difficult thing to do. If you look at the capsules and you decide that you want to, for example, take your minerals at one point in time and take your vitamins at another meal, that's entirely possible to do, but in order to know now which is which, I'd suggest that you contact Gordon.Kennard, who is the head of the new product development at Zango, Gordon.Kennard, Kennard, at Zango.com, and he will respond to you and let you identify those, because I can't tell you right now offhand which is which.
Okay. Gordon.Tennard@zango.com.
Yes.
Okay.
The man to ask your scientific questions to.
Okay. Okay. Well, Dr. Templeman, I so appreciate you taking the time to be on with us, and we're definitely going to have you come back on again. That is for sure. And thank you so much for the evening, and I'm sure you will need to get back to one of your dozens of grandchildren.
Well, actually, I'm going to a group of them tonight to tell stories from my childhood because they love to hear about all the things that their grandfather did that weren't too nice. So I'll be doing
we get
that.
to hear about the jungle one.
Well, I'll tell them the jungle one tonight.
Yeah, tell them the jungle one. That's my favorite. The big hole one is my favorite.
Yeah, the one with that whatever it was that was on my leg.
Yeah. So,
Carolyn, remind everybody that I can respond to them. Email is the best way to get me, jftempleman66@gmail.com. I will answer all of their questions, whether I'm here or whether I'm in Asia. And send your telephone number because I may call you. I'm leaving on the 16th of March, and I will be in Asia until the 16th of May.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay,
Good night.
so thank you. Okay, everybody, I want to just take one more minute. I had so many things to share with you, but let me just go through. Tonight is the last night for the specials on the AERIS for February. So depending on where you are in the country, you have till midnight to place your orders. So it is the carryover from last month, a little bit better. 2 boxes, 1 free of the AERIS collagen, which is my favorite, and you save $80 on that. It's an amazing opportunity to get on the collagen. And then the Instant Eye Gel, same thing, buy 2, get 1 free, and you save $50 on that. And on the AERIS Concentrate, which is another one of my favorites, buy 2, get 1 free. That's a $90 savings. That is phenomenal for you to get on a product or get some friends of yours to try the product. Great opportunity. So, then you also have the party pack, which is $170 with 130 PV, and that's a $55 savings. So make sure that you get that order in by midnight tonight so that you get the February schedule. I mean, they carried it over from January. I don't know about March. I don't want to say yes or no. But then the other thing is the Glimpse Toner just is the end of the month special. So for those of you that like the toner, it's perfect. When you order $100 to $200 of XALO products, Zango XALO products, you get 1 free toner. And I don't remember the cost of the toner, but it's like $35 or something. If you order 200 or more, which I made sure to do because I love the toner, you're going to get 3 Glimpse toners for free. So amazing. And that, again, is over at midnight. The next one is, coming right up here. The February, here's another one. This one is another, all of these promos this month have been amazing. This duo package was carried over again from January, ends at midnight tonight. You get a case of Reserve, a case of the juice for $235. So you are saving over $50. I don't know, it depends on where you live in the country, but it's a $20 savings on the juice boxes, or $30 savings plus free shipping and handling. And, 2 cases of juice being shipped to me is well over $35. So that is a savings. However, the most exciting part of this is, especially for you that are all drinking a good amount of juice or have a family that you share with, if you order it by midnight tonight and you put it on ADP, you are grandfathered in at this price as long as you stay on ADP. Now this offer ends at midnight. So if you're on the juice for 3 or 4 months, you get it for this price. If you stop the ADP, Then you go back to regular pricing, and you will not get to pick this price up again. So if there's any thought whatsoever that you want to take advantage of this, midnight is the end of that program. Okay, so then the next thing I'm really excited about is on Thursday night, you will be hearing from Dr. Vaughn Johnson, and this is like really exciting. I'm trying to get in trouble for this one, but hey, the Ageless with the new flavor, 2 of them, 2 boxes, plus a water bottle. I feel like a salesperson out here. I'm really excited about this. How many are going to buy? Plus 15 Ageless brochures is $199 with 150 PV during the month of March for the U.S., Canada, and Australia, and I think we have somebody on the line from Australia, all the same pricing in every country, and it includes shipping and handling. This is a savings of over $75. So it's an exciting opportunity for many of you that had not been on it, or for those of you that had friends and distributors that didn't want to go on it because of the taste, to get 2 packages and save $75. And remember, the boxes are now, they're 30 to a box. So anyway, then you'll be hearing more about this. Make sure you tune in to WWT on Thursday, March the 3rd, because Dr. Johnson will be further sharing information for all of us. Okay? Before I say goodnight to everybody, I just want to share something. I'm going to elaborate on it next week. Today, in the last couple of days, I've been going through some files and books and manuals and things that we've created over the years, actually since 2003, looking for some particular documents. And here was something that became very significant to me. No matter what the training was, no matter where we were doing it, or the reason for it, or who we were doing it with, how many were in the crowd, what city, what state, what country we've been in, the training has never changed. What Sandy teaches on their calls at Zango University, what Bob and Dick Grace teach on their calls, what all of us teach does not change. And Jim, I know you're still on the line, and one of the things that I pulled today that I'm hoping to talk a little bit more about next week when we have more time was you guys did, and I've never forgotten, I used it for years, is the 180 Days to Financial Freedom. It was a training that you put on, and it talked about aspiring. Aspiring to be the best you can be, aspiring to be more than you are, and belief in what you're doing, belief in the people, belief in the company, belief in the product, believing that you can aspire to be more than you are, making that commitment to do what it takes to be better than where you're at today, no matter what that may mean to you as an individual. Take action and achieve. And we're going to talk more about that in the weeks to come. We'll pick a different topic every week, the last 10 minutes. We didn't have time tonight, but I'm really excited because next week I do want to talk about creating your 5-step prospecting plan, what that means. What you need to do in those 5 steps: set your goals, determine your approach, what is a prospect, creating an operating schedule, creating your warm market, creating your cold market. We'll talk more about that next week. So make sure that you watch for our flyer for next week and our special guest, and have your pad and paper with you because we're going to have some fun. Our last slide, which I love, says your time is now. Not in 4 weeks or in 4 months, not in 4 years, but right now. Let's do it together. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you again, Dr. Templeman. Thank you, Collie, for all you've done for us. And Jim, if you have a few words, please jump right in and share. I lost Jim. Okay, you guys.
Am I here?
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Here I am. I had it on mute. I was talking away. Hey, I do remember the training. The basics are the same. You know, it's not brain surgery. It's repetition. If you can do it once, you can do it 1,000 times. Keep doing what you're doing. We got a whole new year ahead of us here. It's the 29th day of the second month of the year. We got a long way to go to get to the end of the year, and make the best of it that you can.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. God bless. Have an amazing week. We'll talk next Monday.
Good night, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank you, Carolyn and Jim.